2018, because I get this question often, which is my favorite film to work on. This is really one movie. 2018 is the first act, Halloween Kills is the second act, and Halloween Ends is the third act of one 5.5-hour film. Who's next? Yeah.
So, I know in Halloween Kills, there's like the 1978 flashbacks. I just wondered if that was you or Nick Castle under the mask.
In the 1978 flashbacks, they looked at over 200 people to try to find somebody, because David is a purist. David Gordon Green, when he told Ron Hutchinson, you know, when he said, "Do you know anybody?" and Ron said basically, "Yeah, Jim Courtney is the only guy he knew that, you know, fulfilled the idea of a really deep actor and a really good stuntman." David Gordon Green said, "Well, he's got to be 6'3", 200 pounds, and he's got to be in his 60s." That's when Ron was like, "Yeah, okay, I know one guy," and that's how I got the role. So David is very, very specific. I could have. I was thinking, okay, I could play a younger me, but David is such a purist that he wanted somebody much younger to play. So they looked at over 200 people to try to find somebody who moves the way I move, and they couldn't. It just so happened that the stunt coordinator, Aaron Armstrong, who's a very, very wonderful coordinator, a beautiful human being, although he's a little bit shorter, he's a little bit wider, we don't have exactly the same physicality, he practiced decades of Kung Fu, but more importantly, he practiced decades of Aikido and Kali. Aikido and Kali is a martial art that I have combined and practiced for many, many years. And if anything, you know, anybody here knows anything about Aikido, unlike any other art, you don't lift your feet off the ground. It's very glassy and smooth, which is how I get that very smooth movement, because it comes from my heart. It comes from 2 inches below my belly button. It's almost like there's a gyroscope there, and I'm articulating my toes, my muscles, and every muscle in my body is articulating in a way different than we do when we normally walk. Nobody else could get that, but Aaron naturally got that. So Aaron Armstrong is the one who plays the young shape in the flashbacks.
That's cool.
I do want to ask before we get to any other question, is there a scene where you light yourself on fire?
Is there a scene where I light myself on fire?
Did you get caught on fire at one point?
No. But let me tell you, that fire is real. That fire is real, man. I was wearing, in all the fire scenes you see me, I'm wearing 2 Nomex suits soaked in fire retardant gel. And in the end of 2018, when we had the big explosion, y'all know if you're sitting in front of a campfire, right, and it's cold outside, and the front of your jeans starts to burn, and your legs are burning, and you know you got to get away, and all of a sudden, boom, you got to go because it's just too hot. That's exactly how hot my entire body was from the moment the explosion happens. And then that's exactly how hot it was when I walked through the house. And it was so hot walking through the house, well, both in the explosion and the house, so hot that I had to keep my eyes closed and I couldn't breathe, because if I breathed in, I'd burn my lungs. If I opened my eyes, I'd burn my eyeballs. So I had to count the steps from the back of the house to the door, and then I had to count the steps from the door to the front of the porch. And that's when I could open my eyes and breathe. So, although, no, I did not start on fire, it was freaking hot. But I love fire, because the thing about fire is it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous to do firework that the fire is so unpredictable that you have to be super, super, super calm, because if you move quickly, you're gonna exacerbate exponentially the heat and the effect of the heat on your body. And then just off camera, everywhere were real firefighters with CO2 ready to put me out if I had to go. Freddie.
I was wondering, did you have to do any form of method acting to do this character, or are you able to shut it off and turn it on, like, whenever, action stops?
Well, it's a kind of a combination of both.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, because I've done so much shamanic work in South America with South American natives, North American natives, I've done shamanic work with African shaman, using plant medicine. I've gone to some very deep, dark places. I've done a lot of psychological work. I've done a lot of emotional work. I've done a lot of spiritual work. the martial arts I practice have always been a spiritual practice. So it's decades of that. So because of that, I could breathe the character in, and when I do that, it's not me. And then I breathe it out at the end, not at the end of the scene, but at the end of that setup. So if I do 10, 15, 20 takes, but the other part of that is, for instance, and Jamie just brought this up, you'll read this in a Fangoria article. Jamie just brought this up to Fangoria that there was method in my acting because, for instance, in 2018, I kept my distance from her. We met, we had a really good conversation about some stuff we were going to do, and from that point forward, I stayed away from her. I didn't have dinner with her. And Halloween Kills, I never saw her. Never, not once. And then Halloween Ends, by the time we got to Halloween Ends, Jamie and I know each other so well now, and we're friends, so because of that, I could sort of put that method away, and because we're so well worn in what it is we do. But, okay, behind.
First off, it's an honor. Out of Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends is a two-part question. One, what was your favorite kill and why? And two, with what you can tell us, how do you think fans will perceive Halloween Ends?
I can't tell you my favorite kill because it's an Ends. But I will tell you, I'll tell you kind of my favorite kills from the two that you have seen. In 2018, I kind of have two favorites. One is the window kill, because that is the way I would kill. If I had to take somebody out, I'd go in silently, get it done, and get out, right? But the bathroom kills were just a blast. They're just a blast issue, completely brutal and physically demanding. In Halloween Kills, the Cameron kill, hands down. It was just so much fun. Little bastard deserved it. So and Ends, I think it's twisted. It's going to take us places that you wouldn't expect. It's been kept so secret that I was one of the few people who had an unredacted script. Normally, almost everybody in key positions gets the full script. This time it didn't happen. So everybody got fully redacted. Other actors only saw the sides of the scenes they were working on, had no idea what the rest of the story's about. And so it's going to go some places that are some I think really powerful. And the scenes, the work between Jamie and I, for both of us, is some of the most important and beautiful things we've ever done in our careers. So, and not just me, Jamie as well. So it's I mean, people have opinions, and I kind of look at it like, everything we did as filmmakers, we did for the fans, because if you don't honor your fans, then what are you doing? I mean, why are you even there? It's everybody that worked on these three films has a Halloween story. Everybody that worked on, I'm talking grips, I'm talking about catering, I'm talking about actors and stuntmen, and everybody had a passion for this film because we all love the franchise. So I'm quite certain that you guys will like it. Yeah.
It's kind of a follow-up question to the different kills in the movie. Did you have any input personally on how the kills would be performed?
Yes. Because David Gordon Green is probably the most generous director I've ever worked with. What he does, he checks his ego at the door. So he's not this auteur who needs to have his vision. He knows what he wants, but sometimes what he wants is the best of what he can get. And so he'll hear things like, so Shape, so let's audition a few things. What do you think about? And people will huddle around. He'll take ideas from various people, and myself included, since I'm doing things, since I'm the one on the ground, or the other actors are doing what they're doing, we all have the freedom to play with, to make up, to contribute in ways that, and there are times, several times I can tell you, for instance, we do 7 or 8 takes of something, and all of a sudden I get what I wanted. And so I would just go, let's go again. And as soon as an actor says to David, let's go again, there's no question. Everybody just sets right up and we go again really fast because something's about to happen. And every single time, those are the takes we used. So yeah, David creates a very collaborative space. It's amazing.
Awesome.
Yes?
Did you have a favorite scene to film, and was that scene that you filmed?
Say that again, it's a little louder.
Did you have a favorite scene that you filmed, and was the scene that you filmed that was your favorite? Was that also your favorite to watch back?
Yes, and it's in Ends, and it is, and I think when you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's so powerful. Jamie and I just talked about this a couple of days ago. It's so powerful that it still moves Jamie and I. It's so powerful that I'll just leave it there. It's hands down. I mean, hands down, my favorite. And I have lots and lots of favorite moments from 2018 in Kills. So I hope I can impress on you that I'm saying something here. Good question. Yes, sir.
Outside of like the Halloween franchise, who in the horror genre do you think could be Michael?
And some bitch alive, son. The thing is I do not intellectualize this character, and I don't because the work I do comes from such a spiritual place. So in order for me to process that, I would have to intellectualize, which I don't now, and I may never do, or maybe it'll be 10 years from now. But I mean, if I'm gonna step in the ring, boy, I'm gonna bet on myself, Yeah, man.
So I meant to ask you earlier. I'm sorry, I have allergies, so I'm probably losing my voice. But towards the end of Kills, when you walked up and put on the mask, and you're like, all right, they don't even know who they're messing with. When they started beating you all up and everything like that, the only thing I could think of, because I know, like you said, everybody has a different image, like Rob Zombie did, John Carpenter had a different image of what Michael Myers was the point of, like, I was taken as Michael's just like, all right, I'll let you beat me up, give you everything you got, and then that's when you're like, all right, I'll show you what I'm made of. Was that, or I was trying to figure out, because I'm like, Michael's letting these punks beat him up.
Okay, so the way I approach this character and the way David Gordon Green and Danny McBride write these scripts, the way David directs it, is we create a palette, there's a blank palette. We paint in our story, and then we let you guys fill in the blanks. So you get to make that decision. Now, what went on with me is so internal that I don't know that I can even articulate it right now. Because it's so naturally, everything I did, when I'm in that character space, it's not me. So it's just not me. There's enough of me there so that when the director of photography has a camera here and he says, okay, when you get shot with a gun, I need your head right there. And I'm really good at that. I'm good at hitting marks. I'm good at doing multiple, very complex fights. And I can be told in the middle of a fight, okay, when you get to this guy, I need you 1 inch over. And then when you get here, I need you, and I can make these adjustments like that on the fly. So there's that little piece of my brain that edits. But other than that, it's all organic. And it's so I'll let you decide that.
That's brilliant, because that's how I would take it is. And my last question is, as I interpret Michael Myers, and I don't know, because obviously you guys make it and know exactly, like every time he kills somebody, he just becomes stronger, basically what Jamie was saying in the movie. So yeah, I was interpreting as he's killed so many people, it's not even funny that at that point I was thinking he was letting everybody have a piece of him, and then he's like, all right, my turn.
See, that's the beauty of it. I mean, it's really the beauty of this franchise, and especially what David Gordon Green did.
And you're the man.
Yes, thanks, brother. Thank you. Yeah, man.
So in 2018, when Jamie and you were fighting Jude Courtney and reaching for it, like gets her fingers blown off by a shotgun. So in this new trailer, when I was watching it, it looked like all his fingers were there.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
Funny.
And, some people are saying Myers broken because he's Michael Myers.
Or is
You never know.
Yeah, there is a Michael Myers.
You never know. I think you're gonna have to show up on October
Theories, bro.
14th to figure it out.
He's guessing the theories, bro.
Yeah, man. Back there.
So this is reported to be the final Halloween. Has it hit you that it's over, and how has that felt for you?
Well, first of all, there's anybody who's ever made a movie and invested themselves in a movie, and it doesn't matter if you're, unless you go directly the next day to start another film, whether you're the director or a writer or an actor or a cameraman or, we all go through a postpartum depression after every film. So we always go, and it usually takes a week or two, and we realize we're moping around and we're exhausted and we can't figure out why, and then we realize that we're depressed because we've had weeks and months of just extremely intense, highly creative, extremely challenging work with 120 people that you love, and all of a sudden it's gone, it's done, it's empty. So there's always that after a film. But the end of this, for me, I mean, I haven't intellectualized it. I've still got premieres to do around the world. I've got tons of publicity to do. So even though the filming part of this is finished, I'm not finished with Halloween Ends. So after the end of October, if that process is a cognitive process for me, if it's a conscious process, that's when I'll start to really begin to process it. Yeah.
All right. Thea, talk a little better. What would you say? I don't know if you, while I got here, you said you've seen 1978 once. What would you say, if you've seen 4, 5, and 6, is the chief difference between the Michael Myers and this David Gordon Green timeline and the Michael Myers was canon in 4, 5, and 6, besides the obvious boys trip sister trip?
I don't know that I answer that because I have this thing. I mean, I tease that I've been hitting the head a lot, which I have been, and so I have a really bad memory. But I've always had I'm one of those guys. The way my memory works is I can memorize huge amounts of dialogue. I was a crammer in school. I could cram for incredibly difficult subjects and ace the tests and then forget everything like three weeks later. I've seen probably the vast majority of films ever made in Hollywood, and I can't remember any of them. I can see a film, I can see a film tonight, and next week if we start talking about it, I'll have forgotten 90% of it. So, but I can walk into a restaurant and I'll tell you every single person that's in there and what they're wearing and where they're sitting. But then once I realize there's no threat, I'll forget. So it's really difficult for me to answer that because it's a great question, but it's really difficult for me to answer that.
I'd like to get a question less difficult for you to answer because what you've been talking about, the character work, the spiritual work you've done to put into this character that I love so much. Can you expand on that and say what you did mentally and what character work and practices you did to become Michael Myers for this trilogy?
But I see that's the point is that everything that I've done leading up to then, all the preparation work, all the acting work, all the martial arts work, all the meditation, all the plant medicine, all the psychological, emotional, spiritual work, all the deep acting training, all the physical training, that all led to the moment where it was easy for me to capture the soul of the shape, bring it into me, and breathe it out when I need to. So it's a culmination. Like I wouldn't have been able to play this role the way I played it at 25 or 35, or 45. I mean, it would have and Jamie has said this many times is the arc of who a young, gangly Nick Castle was to the development of who I am and how I play this role is is the arc that David Gordon Green wanted when he hired me to play this role. And by the way, Malcolm Cott had to always approve. Malcolm Cott always has approval on who plays the role. So, yeah.
How was it working on the set with Nick Castle?
How was it working on the set with Nick Castle? And I did not work. We had one scene together in 2018. So he came in the middle of the shooting. I'd already been working like 3 weeks. I'd never met him before. We never talked about the character. We were hoping, because the moment we met, we knew we were friends. We were hoping that we would get to share the same scene, so that there would be a passing of the torch, if you would. And we got it, because in the scene where Laurie Strode pulls up and looks up in the window and sees the shape, that's Nick. But it had to be a long shot of Nick, because that mask is molded to my face. And I can't put it on myself. It has to be applied to me. So putting that mask on Nick's face, which is longer, his head is bigger, it would look dysmorphic. And so, but in that same scene, when they shoot the mirror out, that's me in the mirror, because the special effects coordinator was 2 feet behind me and about 12 inches over, and he shot a gun into the, so Nick Castle doesn't want to be that close to a weapon being fired. I kind of live for that stuff, you know what I mean? So I like, that's why I do so many action roles. I love the danger of doing stunts. So we got the passing of the torch. Nick Castle was not in Halloween Kills. He did a scene, but it never made it to final cut. But he was the breathing in Halloween Kills. So the breath, and breath to me is very important. So much is carried on the breath. So the breath in Kills is Nick Castle. I will tell you, in Halloween Ends, he doesn't play anything to do with the shape, but he does do a cameo playing another role, which is kind of fun. So, yeah. Yes.
If there was a horror icon you wanted to play, like another one, who would you play?
Man, if there was another horror icon, I don't know that I would. I had never thought that I would reprise anybody's anything, and I kind of feel like, for me, when I look at I think Robert Englund's, Freddy Krueger is a masterpiece. I would never want to try to capture or to better something that such a talented man has done. So for my money, even though I was fortunate enough to step into the shoes of the shape, I never thought I would. And in fact, it's probably something I would have turned down if it wouldn't have been this particular circumstance. So, any questions?
I want to ask you a question about your stunts. Apparently not lighting yourself on fire, but another question. Has there ever been a stunt that maybe you turned down because you thought might have been too dangerous?
I'm not that smart. There was a stunt where I had to go through a glass window knowing I was going to get cut, and because of it, I've had 3 surgeries on my hands, and as long as you trust the stunt coordinator to keep you safe, there are stunts you're going to do where you know you're going to get hurt. But you step into an MMA octagon or a boxing ring, you step onto a football field, you know you're going to get hurt, or there's a really, really good chance you're going to get hurt. There's nothing I've ever turned down once confronted with it, because the people I worked with, I trusted so deeply. And what I have done is turn down work for people that I didn't trust, who would have put me in those situations. That's a good question.
You ever feel like you're in a dangerous situation during one of your stunts, or thinking, why did I decide to do this in the middle of the stunt?
No, because there was a study done, and I know, I don't know how many of you here have been military. My father was Special Forces. He was airborne in Korea. There were studies done on military, and they found that the general listed, you know, the general rank and file, when they're not engaged in battle, their brain chemistry was really balanced and their heart rate was low. But as soon as they're called into battle, their heart rate steps up, the brain chemistry changes. Special forces people are the opposite. When they're not in battle, they're anxious, they're fidgety, the brain chemistry is skewed, their heart rate is fluctuating. But the moment they're called into a mission, their heart rate drops, the brain chemistry balances, and they get extremely focused. My dad was wired that way, and so am I. And so the moment I get hired or brought into something, I go into mission mode, and that's I get really calm when I'm around physical violence. I get really calm around disasters and car accidents where most people start to freak out and jam on brakes and things like that. I get super calm. Things slow down for me. So it's just the difference in the way my brain is wired. So I think guys like me are wired to do this kind of work.
Yeah, 'cause I freak out, man. Any questions?
Yeah, man.
I have a question about the firefighter scene in Kills. I personally saw a lot of flack in the media after the film. So my question is, what would you say to those people in the media over the flack? And also I was wondering, was there anything within that firefighter scene that didn't make the final cut that you wish would have?
Okay, first of all, I have spoken with and engaged with so many firefighters who just love this film. They love it. First of all, the firefighters love it because there's firefighters out there. Who doesn't want to see themselves up on the screen, right? But I have so many fans who are not just my fans, but fans of horror who are EMTs and ER nurses and cops and firefighters and people who experience traumatic events for a living. And often these people will go and watch horror films and have watched my films to relieve themselves of the stress of the trauma they just experienced that very night or the previous day. So I would say for people who had a problem with me killing firefighters in that movie, to call up a firefighter and ask them, because they're not going to hear what they want to hear. The scenes in I think the way we shot, when they turned the fire hose on me and they're hitting me in the chest, trying to keep me from. All right, the third take was done by the special effects coordinator. The first two takes were done by the police chief, and the sumbitch couldn't get it right. He hit me in the nuts twice, and it hurt. It doubled me over. I'm like, dog, come on, man. So I trusted him the second time. Sumbitch did it again. And so I looked at Heath Hood, and I was like, dude, you got to do this, man, because we'd already rehearsed it. We knew what we were going to do. So, but other than that, everything we shot, the firefighter stuff is in. Pretty much.
That's
yes.
Before you got the call to audition for this role, were you a fan of the franchise at all?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a fan of film, so I don't really delineate. I love action films. I love horror films. I even love chick flicks, man. So, you know what I mean? So it's just it's a good film is a good film. I saw Halloween, the '78 film, in college, and I knew I walked out of that theater knowing it was a game changer, knowing that it was different, and that it was going to be because by that time I've been taking every retrospective I could on films, every genre, every decade, foreign films and Hollywood films, and so I'd really paid attention to films that were successful and why they were successful. So absolutely, and to me, nothing ever compared to '78. I think Rick Rosenthal did a great job directing Halloween 2, and Dick Warlock did a great job as the Shape. For me, those two would have been the best. But now that we're going from '78 to '18 to Kills to Ends, I think we've created something pretty special.
Yes.
I do have a question. Was there ever a scene where mid-kill a blooper happens and everyone just kind of starts laughing and kind of takes a step back from filming? Like just like a blooper where you're trying to kill someone and then it's just like if you miss or something like that, everyone starts kind of laughing about it.
With the kills,
No?
the whole energy is really serious.
Yeah.
Because I mean there were mistakes for sure, and I mean and you know but most often the issues were framing or lighting or timing, but the seriousness of the kills, and a lot of that is set by I mean look, you have Danny McBride in the room. There's funny shit's gonna happen,
Yeah.
right? But he also is a very and David Gordon Green. He's a comedy director. But when we're doing these kill scenes, it was so serious. The energy was so serious and intense because we wanted to create that intensity. So I can't think of one time when we all started laughing during those scenes. We had a lot of fun. Other than that,
Yeah.
there's a lot of. I mean, when we're just hanging out, or we'd have a Saturday night, and we'd all get together and and go to a bar together, and there's a lot of funny people, and we had a lot of fun. But also, for the most part, when I'm not working, and they pull the mask off me, I would step off to the side. I don't sit and talk to people, and just because going back to that whole method thing.
Anybody else?
So, in Halloween 2018, Michael Myers, this version seemed much more grounded. In Halloween Kills, I felt like there were some more supernatural elements, especially God enough to getting jumped by all Haddonfield. Would you say this character is more of a supernatural force or an organic force of nature?
Okay, this goes back to my not having intellectualized the character. That's a decision you get to make. Yeah, man, it is. It is because it's that's the way, and this is by design. This is what David did. He designed it this way so that so again, this is a painting that we're all involved in. Yeah, we did the broad strokes. Yeah, David chose the colors, but then the fans get to fill in the blanks with the nuances and the fine tuning and the small brushes that finish off this painting. And that's why, that's part of the reason why I will not intellectualize this character or the film at this point in the game. Yeah.
Did you do most of the scenes in the eye patch?
Did I do what?
Most of the stunts in the eye patch.
Yeah, I did everything in the eye patch. I was blind the whole.
Was it fun?
Movie. Yeah, it was a prosthetic, and then by the end of every movie, that my left eye was just abused. I had eye infections, and it was rough. It hurt. But it's funny, your body takes over so quickly. Within a day of wearing the patch, I had full 3D awareness, and I could do anything. I could fight, I could drive, I could do anything I needed to do, and see it.
So cool.
Have you seen the final edit for Ins, and did it change much from the unreacted stuff that you had?
I can't answer that.
Okay, we got time for maybe one more question, and then he's got to go back downstairs. Anyone?
Yeah, man.
So the firefighter scene that I was talking to you about, like you're a movie guy, so that's perfect. I'm a movie guy too, obviously, but like in some horror movies, you just get like a chill and you don't know why. Like when I was watching the movie, because I seen you just get the chill because it's like, that's badass. He just walks out of there. But when you watch the movie, you find out how. And so in the first one, I forgot that Jamie Lee Curtis had that steel door with all that gun. So when you hit onto there, I was like, that was brilliant. And then when you walked out of the house and slaughtered everyone. And then the last question I had was, that wasn't a real fire hose. My whole family's like military and fire and police. Like that would have blown you away. So like they had to like depressurize it.
Yeah, they modulated. Like on a real fire hose, you have the modulating lever, right?
Yeah.
It's just like an accelerator. So what they did was, and that's why we knew what we were gonna do, because Heath and I went out and practiced, you know, like prior to starting to shoot the movie, we went out in the back lot and we worked on exactly what kind of pressure. So we built up the right amount of pressure so that we could have the effect, but wouldn't necessarily, you know, like tear my clothes and skin apart, because, you know, full.
Yeah, and like you said, in my mind, because I knew about that, it's like it's Michael Myers. That's bad, because you know in real life that would destroy anybody in real life.
Right.
So
I mean, yeah,
I thought
you'd
that
end
was
over that. But,
that
hey,
was cool.
but
It just
we took
gives
a
you
lot of-
chill.
We took a lot of. That's the thing is, in making films like this, we take the time to get things right, you know, so that we don't hurt people. And you know, and so good question, man. Yeah.
I think you've done a fantastic job of answering everybody's questions.
Yeah.
I know you like filming. You guys want to see me still downstairs till what time? 5, 6 o'clock? 5 o'clock, so go get an autograph, get a picture, and go say hi again. Thank you, guys.